Hello and welcome to Game Master Studio, where we'll be talking tabletop role-playing games, tips and tricks that you can use to help bring your game at home up to the next level. Today we're going to be talking about introducing new player characters into the campaigns, some options that you can use to help bring them to the party and seamlessly join them in so that everything sticks together. Today in the studio, my name is Jerry, aka Frieden.
And I'm Jared, aka DMF.
And thank you for joining us. So we're talking about bringing PCs into a group. Now, there's a variety of reasons that you may need to. We did talk recently about players having to leave the group and different options that you can do for leaving, and you may have somebody coming back. You may have an open seat that somebody's joining in. We did an episode about introducing new players to the game. If that happens, you're going to need to know how to bring in the PC. And we talked really early on in the show's run about gathering the group, bringing the party together for the first time. Once that's done, you'll still need to make replacements for holes because things happen. We talked about player death. And so there's going to be options opening up for people to join the party. So it's good to have an idea of how to do that so that it doesn't disrupt the flow of your game. It makes sense, and it's something that just fits into the game. First thing we want to talk about is don't overthink it. If you have a game where you can have a new person show up, now you're part of the group, okay, everybody's good with that, you don't need to do anything more.
Yeah, enough said, done. Move on.
If you have the agreement of all the players that Dave is going to sit down, he's going to play his barbarian, and he's part of the group now, and everybody's cool with that, and you don't need that deep immersion of, well, why are we working with this new person? Then don't worry about it. Just let it go.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people tend to worry about introing new players when really it's not the kind of game that is important. I think most of the D&D games that I've played in my past, not so much lately, the last few years has been a different, I won't say a different caliber as in to imply better, but a different kind of approach to the groups and the gaming and how the player player type dynamic. But again, early on in my role playing career, it was a lot of more on the hack and slash, more just like game mechanic-y, like that the whole min-maxing and just playing the game to play the game and not really worrying as much about the story. Like there was a story, there was a theme to what was going on. The DM was putting something in front of us, but really you could have just been like, all right, this player's left because, and this player's in because, or, this character left because for whatever reason, and this character came in for whatever reason, and we don't care. Like, just because reasons, and that's fine. Let's move on.
And when you have a game that's, let's sit down, chuck some dice, kill some orcs, argue about game mechanics, and have fun, there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with
that. The more time you spend arguing why this person's in the party, the less time you get to spend chucking dice and killing orcs and having fun.
Yeah. The Don Juan the Bard has joined the group. The reason, I don't care. He's in the group. That's fine. Let's go kill some orcs.
How much damage can he put out around?
Yeah. You min-maxed, man? You good? You OP? Let's do it.
So now if you're looking to incorporate the story of the character joining the group and have, if you have more on the heavy role player side, then, the rest of this episode is going to be a little more relevant to you.
Yes.
And we're going to talk mostly in theory at first, and then give you some examples of scenarios you could use so that you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about, see how it could come into play. And then ultimately it's up to you to tweak that for your game and what works for your game and your group and your players. So the first thing we have is look at the player's background. Assuming that you have a role-playing group, assuming that the player said, here's my character's background, and even if it's just a paragraph or if it's 14 pages, the characters, if they have a history ahead of time, there might be something on that page there that just jumps out to you. And you're like, this is the hook to bring them in.
Yeah, there is typically, again, like Jerry said, no matter the length of the background, there's typically something buried in that background that, was important enough to the player to write it down and therefore can be used as a hook. Some little nugget in there that I'm sure you can find to be like, that would be great if I took this and spun off that and came up with an idea to hook them into the game and have a reason for why they're here. And if it's not there, then you need to sit down and chat with the player. And that's not to say to scold them for not having a thorough background, but just so you guys can bounce ideas off of each other. Like, the player knows whether they wrote it down and articulated it in their background or not. Most players have some semblance of an idea of what they want their player to be, or kind of what their story is going to be, or where they want to go with it. So you need to bounce ideas off them. Like, okay, well, you're at this place in the game. Does your character like these guys? Do they like these monsters? Are they against this? Do they like treasure? Do they like money? You know, like what, throw me some reasons that your character might be incentivized to want to travel with this group.
I like hookers and ale. We should hang out sometime.
Yeah. You like hookers and ales too? You're cool. We should hang out sometime.
And also, for looking at the backgrounds, a lot of players are not professional writers.
True.
You may have players who have ideas in their head that are more detailed than what they're able to put down on page. I've even done some serious writing in my time, and even I'll get the background down. I'm like, I feel like I had more when I was thinking about it, and then I'd get it down on paper, and it just looks so short, and it looks like it's so much more detail I could put into it. But I'd rather have it done, because done is better than perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's two sides of that coin too. Like, typically, not all my characters. Some of my characters are a little bit more hollow than others, because sometimes I literally just throw some stats on a page and then develop my character in game. But most of my true
dark counts.
Most of my real characters, I like to come up with a niche. I like to come up with at least an important event in my background, in which just this one important event, this one life-altering, this moment defines my character. Being a little bit of a writer that hasn't written in a while, I could probably write not paragraph. I could probably write a chapter on that one event. But this is a character background that should have some vaguity to it. You know what I mean? It should have some blank spots for the DM to play with. So I try to summarize the best I can, and I try to keep that one, at least if it's just one event that I'm talking about, I try to keep it down to at least a page. I don't want the DM to have to read a small novel to have a concept of my character. I'm really trying to bare bones it, but still get certain details across that I feel are important. So there's two sides of that where you're trying to keep it short when you could just go on about a bitch. But then there's the other side where well, this seems a little short. I really had a lot more to it, but that's okay. Because I'm a DM. I love reading backstories. But if you hand me a small novel, I'm going to go, dude, man,
the game's on Sunday and I haven't even prepped yet. Now you want me to read all this?
I got to read all this stuff just to know your character well enough to write you into the game? Come on, man. Come over and we'll talk about it.
Yeah. And just the side note for backgrounds, I always, as a DM, I will accept the backgrounds from the players with the caveat that this is 100% true as your character understands it.
Yes, which is important.
Because I also will make changes and tweaks, and I had an infamous one where everything that happened as the player put it, but all of the motivations were completely different, and all the behind the scenes stuff he had no clue about.
Yeah, which is important. It is backgrounds should be written as kind of not necessarily in a first person writing structure. I don't care about your writing structure, but they should be written from the experience of, POV, from, point of view. From my point of view, this is what happened to my character. This is what I lived through. This is how I know it to be true.
Right. And it makes for a compelling case for the character and for the player to have to discover and reconcile those differences between the backstory as you handed it to the GM and the backstory that the GM has in the game.
Yeah.
You can really draw a player in as they realize that, things were going on. Things happened a little differently. This didn't happen the way I thought. This guy is still alive, or, so all this other stuff. And you can really draw your player into the game, make them more invested into what's going on at the table.
So all that being said,
that's backgrounds. Again, it's a good gaming tangent, but we need to get back to talking about what we're talking about. Another option for getting ideas, assuming you look at the background, nothing jumps out at you, is to talk to the player.
Yeah.
Because as we talked about when we were talking to the backgrounds, the players may have much more detailed information on what they want to do as a character than what they put down on the page.
Right.
So if you're not seeing something in the page, you may be able to talk with the player, and something they say may spark. And even just presenting it as like, so why did you get into adventuring?
Yeah.
Why do you want to go see the King of the Mountains?
So I see in your backstory that it says you hate orcs. What have you done about that since you had this horrible experience as a child hating orcs? Have you been actively pursuing orcs? If you saw an orc on the street, how would you react? This particular group is actually hired by some orcs to go fight some goblins, let's say. How would your character feel about that? Can I work with this? Can this even happen? Do we need to rewrite something? Do I need to be creative? How can I incentivize you to want to do this? And
it may also be my character doesn't like orcs, meaning I won't eat in an orc-owned restaurant.
Right.
Or it could be my character doesn't like orcs in that seeing one sends me into a blood rage.
Yeah.
And there's two different sides to get to that. And it may be that just the character is, okay, he's racist, he doesn't like orcs. Well, then he's not necessarily going to come where we're trying to raise an army to overthrow the orc lands. Then he might not be as invested in that as the person who's like, yeah, I want all the orcs dead. Oh, so you want to see them kicked off their ancestral grounds? Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm in.
So, yeah, I think it's important to, even if they have a well-written background, if something jumps out at you, fine, great. You don't need to necessarily talk with them, but I always think it's good to kind of chit-chat with players, especially if you're bringing a new character into an existing group. Then I definitely think you want to have a conversation with the player for the new character. Because if you have an existing group, then you already have things in motion. You're in the middle of an adventure, a campaign, whatever's going on. And you need to make sure, again, if you have a very story-driven game and not just like a plug and play, you need to make sure that they can just kind of like walk into the role of being in this group. Not in this, not to say that there's not, a lot of role-playing opportunities, some trust building that needs to be done, in game. But again, like I built this character that is 100% racist and won't even be in the same room as any non-human race. I go into a frenzy on site. Well, here's the problem. There is no other humans in the group. They're all non-human. Like, they're humanoids, obviously, but they're not humans. We need to rethink this character right here, right now. Because, which goes back to kind of like what we talked about in the social contract episode.
Yeah.
But it's still important things that you need to work out. You need to make sure that there's no hard lines that you're going to have to, like, try to overcome in order to plug them, to plug these characters in. Not only are you looking for a nice, easy common ground, but you're going to try to make sure that you're also avoiding large obstacles.
Yeah. And that maybe the player may need to tweak their ideas.
Yeah, that's not necessarily on the DM. That's just making sure that the player has something that's going to work.
I'm genocidal against orcs, any sort of orcs. Well, we have 2 half orcs in the party. Okay, well, maybe it's like my character doesn't like orcs, and these guys are going to be like, don't cross me. But at the same time, they're not real orcs. Yeah. So I don't have a problem with half orcs. I have a problem with orcs.
Right. They're half real people.
or I have a problem with tribal orcs, not civilized.
Yeah. Or maybe even it's I have had bad experiences with this one very specific tribe of orcs from the north. If I see any of those orcs, I will go into a blood rage and want to murder them on sight. Other orcs I've had okay experiences with, and if they're only a half orc from this other tribe from the south, we're cool.
And you could also be like, okay, well, if they're half orcs, he's going to be kind of wary of them, but it's not automatically hate you forever. And then, okay, we get in a few scraps. Oh, this guy tells some good jokes. That guy's a party hound. Like, maybe I can get along with these guys, these individuals. And the rest of the party composition, I think, is important enough that you can also talk to the party about bringing in a new player.
Right, yeah.
Do you guys want to have some sort of connected history? Is there a big gap that we need to fill?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, our only healer left. We might want to have somebody who can do some healing magic come in. Oh, hey, Bob was talking about playing a healer.
Yeah, our current group has a bunch of tanks and healers and alt tanks and alt healers, but we don't really have any damage dealers. Think this new guy could make a damage dealer for the group?
Which Jared is referencing a specific game we played in, and the answer is no, we're just going to do more of the same.
Yep.
Like tanks and utilities, but we don't have a lot of burst damage.
Yep. We already have a couple casters and a cleric and a tank. Well, let's add another, another support and another cleric. Yep, good, great.
Not in any way bashing anybody.
No, perfectly fine. Just
it worked
not
out.
Would have been what I chose, but it's perfectly fine.
It worked out. We all had fun,
Yeah.
and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely a different dynamic.
Which also really just kind of goes to show that there's never really like, that's an unworkable concept.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of different group compositions that I think could totally work. Like, especially in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, like I think you could totally get away. I mean, you'd want them all built slightly different, but a 100% party of druids totally could work.
Yeah.
100% party of clerics totally could work. 100% party of paladins totally could work. Like, Bards, absolutely. Bards are red mages anyway, so they already do everything. You know, clerics can mostly do everything. Druids can kind of do everything. Yeah. Paladins, not the strongest healers, but capable of healing and pretty much can do everything. You know what I mean? They can definitely deal damage. They can typically tank, and they can heal a little bit. I would love to see a part, like, I wouldn't want to be the DM for that group, but a party of paladins I would love to be a part of, because we would just murder some stuff.
That's a holy crusade right there.
Yeah, let's play the Knights Templar and go kill some stuff.
So, yeah, your party may have options or ideas, and it may even just be like another player, oh, I heard so-and-so wants to do this. Wouldn't it be cool if they did X?
Yeah.
And now you're just getting the additional perspective. You know, you should already have, 3 to 6 to 8 or whatever players who play D&D, and they have different experiences. You're going to have different perspectives. Somebody might have an idea you never thought of.
Well, also, like, bringing back the backgrounds, like, typically the DM's thinking about the background of the new character that's going to be coming in. But if you go to the party, or even if you approach it with the aspect of what might the party think, well, we recently had a reveal that the bard has a long lost brother that he's never met. This guy wants to bring in a dude, and he has kind of a vague background. Doesn't, maybe he's new to playing in general, doesn't have a big, let's bring him in, like, hey, you're going to be a human, he's a human, he's got a long lost brother. You want to be his long lost brother? Boom, we have a connection right there. Instant role play. You have a built-in background. Like, I mean, you have to fill in some details because he's never met you. You didn't grow up in the same household, but boom, connection, jump in the group, good to go.
Yeah, and those, as a DM, like, I love connected backstories.
Yeah.
Like, speaking of the DM philosophical concepts and theoretical discussion, there's what is I've seen referred to as sticky. Mm-hmm. Sticky is the reason the party stays together.
Yes.
And to have those connected backstories gives an automatic kind of sticky to at least part of the group.
Yeah.
One of my favorite games that I played in for character concepts, I played with one of my best friends, and we played a set of twin brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really cool to have twins in the party and the way that they worked and interacted with each other. And it was just the fact that, well, part of the party is held together because the twins are just inseparable. And it's a cool literary trope that we were able to bring to the game table.
Yeah, well, I mean, typically, one of the hardest things for DM, I mean, in story-driven, like, games where the DM really likes to have a lot of, cohesion and everything, making sense. One of the hard is just getting the game started, getting the group together. Which is why a lot of DMs will say, hey, you're going to start at like 2nd+ level and you've already known each other and been adventuring for a while. You guys figure it out. Like, and I'm not saying that's dumping, work on the players. Like, I think that's perfectly viable and a great way to do it, but
it's a shared experience. So why shouldn't they share the work?
Right. Yeah. Which we've talked about. But yeah, if you write into your, the backstory, like, okay, we're brothers and this person is actually playing an ex-girlfriend of one of the brothers, but they're still really tight friends. And then, this person over here, is, a lifelong friend of that girl. And this person over here, is the cousin of one of the brother, or a cousin to the brothers. And everyone is not necessarily connected to each other in every, facet, but this person, A has a connection to B, and B has a connection to C, and C has a connection to A, and, B has a connection to G, and G is connected to F, and everyone's kind of all intertwined in this weird, complex, CBS drama, kind of thing going on. But it's fun. Like, everyone, there's a reason that you're all together. Like, this is an inseparable group. I don't have to worry about making them work together. They're just already together. They already know all each other. You know, like this is a network of friends and family. We can just go adventure and have some fun. Like this is like a bunch of people that already knew each other. Like, dude, you play drums, I play guitar, you play bass, dude, I sing. Like, we should start a band. You're a cleric, I'm a wizard, you're a fighter, you're a rogue, dude. Why aren't we adventuring together already?
And that's also the type of dynamic that you're going to build as a party. You know, if you start at level 1 and you play through to level 5, you know, by that point your characters have that connection. They have the stories. Like, you know who's friends with who. Like, we got to get rooms at the inn, and we already know who's bunking with whom.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just like you build that as you go. So if you set that up ahead of time, it helps bring that party in. And then adding a new character is just a matter of like build an extension onto the web.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you did mention bringing the characters together at the beginning, which we did an episode on way back.
Yeah.
That was called Gather the Group. So one of the notes we have on here for bringing the party together as we start talking about more specific scenarios is called Gather the Group +1, which is looking at some of those options, some of those scenarios we talked about in Gather the Group, and do that with the party as well as the new person.
Right, yeah.
Now they're all thrown into jail together, or they have all been hired on to be a part of a caravan, and they're working together, or they're traveling together, and now what you used to bring everybody together in the first place, you now have to add that extra player in to have them interacting with the whole group, sticking around together, so that hopefully it all kind of stays, so that when they go off after this wacky shenanigans is done and they move on to more wacky shenanigans, that they're bringing the new person with them.
Yeah, the trick is to put them in a situation or scenario that forces them together, so that way they can have the time together to then form the bond to then stay together. I mean, that's pretty much how it's typically approached. I mean, you don't have to necessarily use the term of forcing them together, but that's pretty much what you're doing. You're slapping two pieces of paper together and hoping that there's some glue in between them, so that way when you go to pull them apart, they won't just fall apart. Or when you let them go, they won't just fall apart. I should, phrase it that way. So yeah, anything that works for gathering a whole group is going to obviously work even more easily for just adding another person, because then you can look at the group almost as one person. Like, that's one unit, and then the new person is another unit. So you're not trying to put 5 units together, you're trying to put one larger unit together with one smaller unit. So you just have to plug one in. You don't have to plug 5 together.
And you can also use this as a case to take part of the party, put them in with the new one, and then the rest of the party comes back around and picks up the other smaller group. The big good example for this is, okay, the rogue gets thrown in jail, and while he's there, he's cellmates with a barbarian that Dave's playing. Mm-hmm. They break out together, like, hey, yeah, good teamwork on that. Hey, I got some guys I run with. Why don't you come along? Mm-hmm. And then you connect him to a member of the party who's then brings them to everybody else, and you can connect them in that way.
Yeah, you separate the group and then introduce the new person or persons with one facet of the group. And then, yeah, when they all reunite, it's just, hey, don't worry, he's cool. Don't worry about this guy. I vouch for him.
He helped me out in prison, is totally not an undercover mole.
Right, exactly. And there's lots of different scenarios. Jail is the one that keeps coming to mind. Like you mentioned, like as soon as you started to say, oh, just introduce him to one, I was like, yeah, like in jail. And then you're like, in jail. And I'm like, oh, that's the one I went to. Because that's the easiest way to just instantly separate the group. Like, oh, this one guy's got arrested. Or, or maybe the whole group's arrested, but they're separated in different cells in different parts of the jail. And then, this guy meets, one of the group meets this person, and then you eventually all escape together or whatever.
But, or you might have one guy gets arrested, the rest of the party comes to break him out. It's like, well, his cellmate's right there. You might as well come along. Mm-hmm. You're going to get in trouble for being part of an escape attempt anyway. Might as well escape in the process.
Yeah, so now I'm going to split the party kind of scenario. So you're in a dungeon and somehow the party gets split, and part of the party runs into somebody else that's also stuck in the dungeon. Kind of another jail sort of situation where you're stuck in this place together, but not necessarily the authorities threw me in jail, but so much as, I'm stuck in this dungeon that, I'm trying to get out of, and now we can do it together. Yeah. Bonding experiences,
creating a common connection. It's just being the next thing on the list. Common connections, including things like common ground, common goals, common enemies, and common history. Now, we did talk about like common history when we were talking backstories earlier.
Right.
And common ground is along the lines of like, oh, you like Halen hookers? I like Halen hookers. Let's hang out.
Yep. Common goals might be escaping jail.
Right. Or I want to see the orcs wiped out. Or, we need to go visit the Mountain King.
Yep. Common enemies is kind of an extension of common goals, but like common, but slight variation in the sense of like, while it might be a common goal of like my intent or my goal is to go kill the Lich King. Oh, you want to kill the Lich King? I want to kill the Lich King. But it could also be kind of bonding over like mutual hatred. You know what I mean? Like, I hate that guy. I hate that guy too. Not necessarily that you have the goal of going out and wiping out that guy, but like, something to bond over. You know what I mean? The enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing.
And it could be like, oh, the Anthrax the Black Orc Warlord needs to be stopped. You want to stop an Orc Warlord? I hate all orcs. It doesn't necessarily need to be
specific.
I hate X. I also hate X. It could be I hate X and I hate Y, which is a subset of X.
Yeah. I hate X. Well, I hate the alphabet. Well, X is part of the alphabet, so yes.
And just once you get those common grounds, they're working together. They got a common cause. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like, how do you become friends with someone in real life? Because really, it's a group of friends. A well-functioning group, unless it's mercenaries and such, which we're going to talk about also. But typically it's a group of friends or like-minded people. So how do you make friends in real life? Usually you bond over common interests. Common interests might include common history, common ground, common goals, common enemies.
Yeah, I know.
How do you become friends, with somebody at work? We both hate the man together. Like, oh, I hate my boss. I hate my boss too.
I've become friends with people because they were on a campaign to kill Anthrax the Black, and I was like, hey, that sounds cool.
I was gonna go kill the Lich King, and this other guy's like, you're gonna go kill the Lich King? I'm gonna go kill the Lich King.
So it's great. Moving along, we also have the options for being ordered to team up. Oh, you guys are going to kill Anthrax the Black. You're a little lacking in arcane ability. Here, I have a powerful wizard that I would like to send with you.
Yeah, you'll never be able to stop him unless you have someone that can dispel all his wards around his, his castle. Take Jacob the Wise. Okay. Yeah. Hi, I'm Jacob the Wise. I'd like to join your group. Thanks.
Or, okay, you guys are hired on. You need to help protect the ship. And you guys are great, but I want to get a little extra muscle. So this person will be working security detail with you as well. You get into a few fights on the trip. This guy proves he can carry his weight. And then when you get to the new port, you're like, well, we've got to go here. What are you doing? He's like, I'm not doing anything else. I'll go along. And now that group has been working together because somebody higher up told them to.
Mm-hmm.
That also fits with the other scenario we have, which is mercenaries for hire. Yeah. Everybody's getting paid by the same employer.
Mm-hmm.
So common employer.
Yeah, kind of the same concept of being ordered to team up, but in the sense, but more like this one's like, you guys are going to go, the first one's more like, you guys are going to go do this. I'm sending him with you. And this other situation is like, I'm hiring you guys to do a job. And he's also being hired to do the job. So you might
part of the job is working together.
Yeah, you might as well work together.
And this also works for the party. Could be like, wow, we're going on, we're going on a cave dive, but we don't really know underground. Maybe we should hire like an expert splunker, dwarf druid that works in the Underdark.
Yeah, I was going to say, the other variation would be the party actually hiring somebody to fill a gap that they know they need in order to accomplish the said goal. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can also count as like, oh, wow, we want some extra muscle on this trip. And the barbarian says, I will help for a share of the loot. Really, you're there because you're getting paid. You're a mercenary, even though pretty quickly, in these cases, a lot of the players will go, okay, he's part of the party.
Yeah. Yeah, we're paying you, and by paying you, I mean you're getting a cut of the loot, which is pretty much what everyone gets anyways, so, like, you're hired. Right. Welcome to the Adventurers group.
Now, if you really want to get cracked, it's like, well, everybody else gets 15%, but you're only getting 10%.
Yeah, you're a subcontractor.
Yeah.
the owner of the home that's paying us is paying us X, and then we're subcontracting you to do a very specific job in which you only get paid Y.
And that also allows for growth and development in the party.
Yeah.
Because then you could be like, oh man, this barbarian's been with us for a few trips. He's really been helping out. Maybe we should make him a full partner.
Or like maybe we really want to be a bunch of jerks and be like, well, we should bump up his pay rate a little bit. Like, here, we'll give him Y plus 5%. Okay, he's survived a few levels now. We'll bump him up to Y plus 15%. So like turn it into a big deal when you find like, you're finally an honorary member of the group. Yay!
I thought you were going to do like, make it a big deal. Like, so we have your performance review.
Yeah.
We're giving you a raise.
We've decided to give you a promotion.
You're going to get a new title, some extra duties.
Yep. You're now the head of the subcontractors, which doesn't officially change your current role, but if we ever decide to bring on another subcontractor, you'll be in charge of them.
I would get to boss somebody around eventually.
Yeah. So we'd still be your bosses, but you could be somebody else's boss.
Yeah, and then the last option that we have on the list, and of course this, if we had spent more time, we probably could have made a much longer list. But the coincidences.
Yeah, the right place, right time kind of situation. Like, parties traveling, down the path, and they're traveling through the woods, and all of a sudden, they hear screaming, "Help! Help! They're gonna kill me! They're gonna kill me! They're gonna kill me!" And there's a whole tribe of goblins sitting around this fire with this guy tied up, and they're about to throw him on the fire and cook him for dinner, and the party's in the right place at the right time to save this guy. And thank you so much for for saving me. And normally I could handle them all by myself, but they got the drop on me while I was sleeping and whatever, posturing, whatever you want to do. But, anyways, you meet, new character, and character's like, well, thanks for saving me. I owe you a debt, and/or, well, I wasn't doing anything other than about to be eaten. Seems my schedule's freed up. Mind if I travel with you for safety for a little while?
And it doesn't even have to be that complicated. It could be like, oh man, our fighter just died. And now we're in the tavern, and oh hey, here's a paladin of the same level.
So I heard
looking
you need
for assistance.
Yeah. So I heard you need a fighter. I heard there's a job opening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could be as little as like, well, you're traveling down the road, and there's a wagon on the side of the road with a flat tire. Pull over for assistance. So it looks like you got a flat tire. So the cart,
I don't know.
To your cart wheel came off.
I don't know if it's funnier to have like the cart wheel went flat and is sitting down, or like one of the horses deflated.
Right, deflated horse on the side of the road. Oh man, one of my horses went flat.
I think I ran over a nail.
Can I hitch a ride? And then, of course, then you have like some random combat to show that this person has some combat prowess, and like, oh, hey man, like, what are you up to anyways? Oh yeah, well, no, I was just traveling to this next town. Well, we're going to the next town anyways. We might as well you hang with us for the rest of the time. You seem pretty capable. Okay, yeah, cool, great. By the time you get to town, you're drinking buddies, and like, well, fuck. I just wanted to adventure anyways. Cool, we adventure. All right, you're part of the group.
All right, and you're good to go.
Done.
And you again
back to the beginning of the episode. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. I mean, this requires a little cooperation from the players, that they're not going to be like, well, I don't know, I don't trust this guy, unless that's the type of game you're playing. If you want to have like spy intrigue and high paranoia, then absolutely, players can be.
But that's built
suspicious
into the game, so they're going to be, even if they started together, they might have random spots where they're suspicious of each other.
Why did he go off on his own?
Yeah. He went to the bathroom all by himself. I don't know about this guy. It's kind of shady.
He does that like every single day. Sometimes twice.
Yeah, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. Like, I don't know. It's getting a little out of hand.
So that was just a bunch of options, things to think about bringing new players in, or new PCs in.
Yes, new characters.
This isn't necessarily introducing a new player to the game, although it can also be involved with that. And that's a separate episode if you want to go listen to that. But feel free to get in touch with us with your thoughts, your ideas on introducing new characters to the party and things that may have worked for you. Let us know, and we'll see you next time we're in the studio.